to build wealth from nothing. A couple of days ago, I was speaking with a friend, and they were recently in trouble because they invested in something that went totally under. They were invested in something that ended up becoming a Ponzi scheme. And it got me thinking, if I lost everything, could I build everything back again? And if so, how and how long would it take? So a lot of times something happens and we're forced to consider the possibility of how do I build everything from scratch? And so let me tell you my 10-step process in order to do that. As soon as the event happens, you're gonna need some time to process what has just happened. And I call that really working on your mindset for the first 30 days. So processing what happened, gaining clarity, getting resilience. You know, I have something that I've created for people in my Limitless tribe called the Limitless Compass. And it's an amazing protocol to get recalibrating and absolutely clear on your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goals, right? Again, a lot of setbacks are not really setbacks. They're a setup for a comeback, right? They are, stepping stones to your next success. So really reframing the failure, it's the shift away from the post-traumatic stress into more of a post-traumatic growth mindset. Next is really getting your physiology right. So the 4 assets, there's your state, your story, your strategy, and your standards, right? What I mean by state is literally how you walk, how you feel, how you carry yourself, how you speak, where your psychological mind and vibrations are at. Your story, we talked about the framework, reframing that story in an empowering way. Hey, this is the second chapter way. Then it's strategy. What are the next steps? And just getting that laid out, not necessarily executing on the strategy, but getting it all laid out. And then finally, the standards. What standards am I going to hold myself up to for the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, as I'm going to go into grind mode? Number 2, find a source of 6-figure income. This is absolutely critical. You need money to make money, even though people say you don't. One of the first things to do is create some kind of 6-figure engine. I was a cardiologist. I practiced for many years. I retired a couple of moons ago, and what I would do is I would recertify as a cardiologist and start working. But if that's not your background, it's what other high-income job do you have based on your skill sets, and can you go back to that? If you're an engineer, can you go back to being an engineer? If you're an architect, if you're a nurse, you're a dental hygienist, I don't know what you are, but that skill set is very valuable because it can start creating immediate income, right? If you have a monetizable skill that potentially you can do remotely, you can be a freelancer and do this on a platform such as Upwork or Fiverr that allows you to essentially, people pay for your services and you deliver the services and you get paid for it. And you're working on your own pace and you can take on as many clients as you want and as many projects as you want. If you're very good at sales, or if you can get very good at sales, this is a very powerful way to get 6 figures very quickly. The next one is being a content creator, right? Content is king. If you can create something of value and gain eyeballs, you can then monetize it. Next is like online courses. You can sell a $500 course to 200 people, and that's $100,000 per year. You can coach, you can instruct, right? Like after school tutoring, SAT tutoring, MCAT tutoring, LSAT tutoring, MBA tutoring. People pay good money for all that. If you're a really good basketball player, you can coach kids in basketball and charge $100 an hour. If you don't have a high income skill set, then we can talk about being an Uber driver. There are Uber drivers that earn over 6 figures a year. So again, this is how you get started. The next one is becoming a mercenary, not a missionary. What do I mean by that? Normally, I want you to long-term be a missionary. But when you've lost everything, it's quite apparent to you that the first things you need to do are really gather your resources, find where you can make the most amount of money with the least amount of time, and just go laser focus. And so what I would do something called locum tenens, which is essentially you become a freelancer in medicine as a physician, and you go anywhere in the country and you're willing to travel there. You just have to get credentialed and licensed in the state as well as the hospital. Let's say, I'll make $200,000 as a physician in Florida, but I make $800,000 as a same physician in Montana. I'm going to go to Montana all day long. That's how I can maximally regain a tremendous amount of income in a short amount of time. And you can do that for any profession. And then if you go where there's the maximum income for the least amount of time, this is essentially called arbitrage. The next thing is using your specialized knowledge to have an unfair advantage. If you know coding, if you know marketing, if you know sales, some type of skill set, then you can really maximize that and really have an unfair advantage. Next is minimalistic. You have to keep your expenses to bare bones. Live with your family perhaps. Own nothing. Just rent out everything else, right? Use an Uber. Don't own a car. Don't own a house. Rent it. Borrow it. And then I recommend going to monk mode. Monk mode is essentially following a very Spartan type of routine where you're literally living to just go in, crank out maximum amount of work in a short amount of time. You're not really hanging out with friends. You're not watching TV. You're not watching Netflix. You're living more of a Puritan health strategy where it's workout, minimum viable amount of food needed for your sustainment and for some health, and the whole focus is income generation. The next is acceleration strategy. We would first want to brainstorm and just think about, okay, now that I have some income coming, maybe I'm making 100K now, 200K now, 300K now, how do I create massive wealth in a short amount of time? How do I accelerate what I'm doing? And so here are some of the main categories. Here's the 9 categories in how you can accelerate your wealth, right? We talked about becoming sort of a social media content strategist, becoming a person who either utilizes code or creates code, right? And that could be basically utilizing artificial intelligence to 10x your productivity. For example, if you want to write marketing copy for a company, you can essentially say, hey, look, I'll produce 10 pieces of amazing content for you every day, and just feed everything through ChatGPT. Hey, if you're a person who creates thumbnails for people, learn how to use Canva very well and create these thumbnails on Canva and then give it to these people. Or, this is where you arbitrage different platforms, right? Buy things on Craigslist where things are dirt cheap or almost free and sell them on Amazon or eBay. Next category is real estate. Consider small multifamily. It's an overlooked asset class that can literally make you 7 to 8 figures in 3 years or less, starting from scratch. So this is learning how to buy a 10 unit, 20 unit, 30 unit, 40 unit, 50 unit. Many of these deals you can do with zero money of your own. You can do private money. You can do friends and family. You can do seller financing. You can do very creative with that. Next is fix and flips. Tons of people out there that you can use credit cards, hard money loans, and really start this fix and flip empire that can earn a vast amount of money in a short amount of time. And then finally, short-term rentals. Very powerful strategy. Next one is crypto. If you understand the space, if you understand blockchain, there are strategies in there that can potentially really generate amazing returns. Just make sure that you really understand what you're doing, that it is as vetted as possible, and it's not a Ponzi scheme. Next is businesses. Either running a business and asking for equity in the business, or buying a business or franchise is very powerful. And I was listening to a podcast by Cody Sanchez, and she's talking about buying these boring businesses like laundromats and car washes and things like that are cash kings, that are usually mom and pop owned, that you're taking over and you professionalize and institutionalize, and boom, you can make significant money on these kind of things. And if you don't have the money but you have the operational skills, then get a money partner and go do it. Next is stock trading, options trading. There are several strategies that are pretty conservative in stocks and options tradings where you can make small bits of compounded money over a long period of time that can really change your trajectory. And then finally, e-commerce, right? Shopify, Etsy, Amazon, eBay, learning to create an online store, buying it at a lower price, selling at a little bit higher price, and using volume to really get your returns. And then once you decide on one of these paths, go monomaniacal, monk mode, super focused. Remember this, what you touch turns to gold, but you have to touch it long enough, and don't get caught up by shiny object syndrome, and just get super focused. And then once you do that, it's time to do LGS, right? After your first million, you want to learn to do what I call LGS, learn to leverage growth at scale. And so first, that involves creating a team, so a trained group around you, so this becomes more of a true business versus a solopreneurship. Number 2 is creating systems, right? Systems to scale, systems to deliver products, systems for all the different departments. And then 3, create a trajectory that you're following. At this stage you're going to do this, at this stage you're going to do this, and there's stages to businesses, so you want to start going along those stages. And obviously you start linear, but eventually you want to go logarithmic, exponential. And then finally, infuse capital, add resources, and amplify, double down, rinse and repeat. And then number 7, learn from your mistakes. Figure out why you lost money in the first place and make sure that never happens again. And one of the ways we can do is when you're at the $5 to $10 million mark, you want to fortify and diversify. What that means is make sure that there's no single person dependency. You're in a blue ocean market. You figured out how to handle the competition. You've done a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on your current business, and you diversify. Now, A lot of the money that's coming out of your businesses, you're putting it in very safe other streams of income. You're creating multiple passive streams of income. The average millionaire has 9 streams of income. So you want 9 streams of income if possible. And then you marinate all of this. You steep all of this in gratitude, in appreciation, in family, in faith, right? Enjoy the experience you've been through. Realize, yes, you suffered, but through the suffering, there were lessons. Through the suffering, there was insights. There was introspection. You surrendered. Eventually, you just knew that you can't control the outcome. You can only control your identity and the process. And you did that. And now you're on the other side. And then have periods of time where you're in silence, where you have prayer, gratitude, journaling, contemplation, and just appreciation, being in nature. And then finally, teach others and pay it forward, right? You didn't get here all alone. And I think it'll amplify how you feel and your success if you're able to help others, right? Each one, teach one is the motto we like to live by. All right, if this was helpful, look forward to catching you guys on the next video. Peace.